We're here in Tyalgum today for our Worst Weeds of the Tweed workshop and field day. This is the first workshop and field day we're going to be holding as part of our Small Farms Big Changes project with funding support from the New South Wales Government Environmental Trust. We've got support from Southern Cross University to prepare a survey for Tweed farmers. The results of that survey were pretty clear. They want to know more about what weeds they have and how they can control them and reduce their chemical usage and more effectively control those weeds. We've pulled together some of our key experts in the field and we're delivering this project as part of that.
Probably prevention is the best management. To take care in what you bring in on farm, whether that's in the form of silage or hay or even new cattle that you do bring in. Other things we can do is good grazing management, keeping ground cover, invest in our soil, so things like soil testing, improving our fertility to grow more resilient and competitive pastures.
Biological controls are any type of control agent for a problem weed species uses a biological agent. A biological agent can be an insect, it can be a fungus, it can be a bacteria, and the ones that, being a mycologist, I'm more interested in are the fungal ones, and these can be leaf pathogens or stem pathogens, crown pathogens or root pathogens. Instead of spot spraying like you do with fruit propionate where you go spray all over the place, all you've got to do is just this tiny little squirt, bang, in the centre of each tussock like this, and you've really only got to do about 1 per square metre, and the fungus will spread out and join up. Some of the benefits to the soil of using Soil Trooper is that it's what's called a dark septate endophyte. The dark septate endophyte sequesters carbon into the soil. It can take the dead material from the surface of the soil and turn it into highly stable carbon compounds within the soil.
I got some paratrooper at the time and I did that at the back of my house completely away from it, and I actually didn't think that it took very well, I didn't think it worked very well, and I thought, well, that's not working fast enough, I'm going to go and get some flupropionate. And it worked quite effectively, it killed it off. What I noticed was that the grasses are not growing back into that space again. Things that are growing back are fireweed and thistles and giant devil's figs. But what I have noticed is the place at the top there where I put the Soil Trooper, I went back there one day and I went, oh my God, most of the Parramatta grass had gone. And there was just a couple of little sicker ones left. And not only that, but the grass was really lush and it looked really healthy.
What we want to think about any time that we're controlling weeds or preventing weeds is what we really want to talk about, is the best ways to do that is to manage them when they're small. So looking for your weeds, going around your high-risk pathways on your properties, things like your rivers, things like roads, along fence lines. Have a look for those weeds and then you can treat them when they're little. That's going to allow you to do things like spot spray them rather than having to overspray large plants. Other things that we're going to do is getting into the bush and treating them in there so they're not escaping into your paddocks. Deal with the weeds when they're still in the bush, and as I said, not in your paddock, because it's going to make it easier to stop them getting out there. So some of the techniques that we like to use, probably the most common one is cut, scrape and paint, and that's used on small woody plants or what we call woody weeds, so usually things up to about 2 to 3 metres tall. It's a technique where we're cutting the weed down near the ground, we're scraping the sides and then we're applying herbicide to that area there. That means we're using a very small amount of herbicide. We don't want to use too much herbicide because obviously it's expensive and can be toxic to both you and the environment you're working in. Another technique that we use is injection, so that's where we're getting something like a drill or a chainsaw if you've got bigger trees, and drilling holes into the tree and filling those with herbicide. You need to do that all the way around the tree to ensure that you're not just killing one side of the tree. So you noticed I went in on an angle down like that. The reason for that is obviously I want a hole I can fill. If you just drill straight in, then the chemical's going to fall back out. So what I'm putting in these is the same mix that I used before. So it's the 1 part glyphosate, 1 part water. When injecting canthers, you can use your glyphosate neat. That means it's undiluted. We can also use a technique called frilling, and frilling's where we're doing like a brickwork pattern up the side of the tree, once again all the way round, and filling that with herbicide. And basically you're still looking for that same thing where you've got somewhere you can pour your chemical into. And this brickwork pattern is supposed to work so that if I overfill this hole, it's either going into these ones or the ones underneath. We talked about how important it is to make sure that you know what you're treating so that you're not killing natives when you think you're killing weeds. And part of that big picture too is that some weeds are worse than others, some are more aggressive than others, and knowing which ones you should be getting on top of.
My vision of the future is pesticide lowerage. This sort of activity we can scan from the sky with an NDVI scanner. It tells us where the problem is and we attack that problem rather than putting out the whole hectare, cover the whole lot. We don't need to, and it's a pesticide saving, pesticide usage saving, and everyone gets the benefit. Farmer, environmentalist, everyone's working together. So I was just going to go out where those tufts are out there, and it's going to run up and down towards you. And you can see it's going to do about 9 runs, and you can see what it does. It'll start at start points high because we send it out quite quick, and then it'll come down to its point to start, spin, and go off and start at the speed and the height that I've set.
Well, it's been a fantastic day. I just wanted to say a big thank you to all the speakers that have come along today and put in their time and effort. And a big thank you to Tweed Landcare for giving us a big hand setting this up. So yeah, that's all from us. Bye for now.